Alright, let's take a look at the very first lesson of beginning guitar here on 6-string guitar. We're going to first of all talk about the guitar itself. The parts of the guitar for those who have never ever played a guitar or even had one in their lap, so to speak. So I'm just going to talk about some of the main things with a guitar. So the very first thing is the tuning pegs up here by the stock of the guitar, and we'll talk about that. But before I get into that, this is one of my guitars. This is one of my first acoustic guitars. I'll just give you a little story on that. This is a Gibson Advanced Jumbo. This is my first Gibson acoustic. I bought back in 2005. I bought it at the Guitar Center in New Haven, Connecticut. I had to travel down there back in 2005 for work reasons and so forth. And I was looking locally for a J45 or some type of Gibson round shoulder, as they call this. It's known as a round shoulder dreadnought. And we'll get into the different body shapes, and we'll get into the construction of the guitar, what the wood and everything is, and another video on how it makes different sounds and how it's best suited for different applications or different settings. But so anyway, getting back to my story, I went to New Haven, Connecticut at the Guitar Center. I looked at many guitars and I saw this one here, and I knew right from the very first strum of the G chord this was the guitar for me, so I bought it on the spot. It's a beautiful guitar, and the reason why I just chose this one this evening in the instruction, this one is probably, due to the construction, the back and the sides, it's probably one of the loudest acoustic guitars that I have that can project sound. And like I said, we'll talk about that later. But let's get right back to where I was starting. So up here is the stock, and you have your tuning keys. And this is where your strings go up and go in through. There's a hole there, and that's how you wind your strings around these posts. And you turn to tighten, of course, and to tune up your guitar. There are 6 strings, of course, and I'll talk about the different string names and so forth in a few moments. You can also, here is the neck of the guitar, and on the front of the guitar you'll see the different bars here, and these are called frets. Most acoustic guitars would probably have 20 frets. And when people say put your finger on the first fret or so forth, that would mean in between here and here. You wouldn't put it on the actual fret. You're going to stay back from that fret, and that would be the first fret, and so on. So if you were going to put your finger on the second fret, it would be between the first and the second. You would not put it actually on the second fret. Here is what they call the nut. That is known as the 0 fret. Basically, when you pluck an open string, that's the 0 fret. So you're not fretting anything. So that's where the string crosses the nut. That's the 0 fret. Again, as you fret up in here, it's fretting down to the first fret because you're in this area right here. And as you move up, you change the tone. You go up, every tone is a semitone. Up. And we'll get into that further as we talk about the musical theory, and we'll get into the musical alphabet and so on. But first of all, I don't want to confuse you too much right off the bat. I want to talk about, chords and so forth. Get you started on chords and so forth. So that's the frets and the tuning keys. Down here is the bridge, and this is what's sitting on the front of the guitar. And this is where your strings go in the bridge. And here are your bridge pins. So basically there's a ball on this type of guitar. When you put your string down with the little ball in, there's a slot in the bridge pin, and you haul up and you get it tight, and then you bring up your string and you run it through the hole and you tighten it up. Right here is the saddle where the strings cross over the bridge and right up across the neck and so forth. And that's how you get the sound. And a lot of people will talk about the action on the guitar. So the action on the guitar is the distance from the strings, the string height from the strings to the frets. And there is based on different specifications of different manufacturers, be it Gibson, Martin, Taylor, whatever guitar manufacturer. There are certain specifications that they normally go by. However, some people like a higher action, some people like a lower action, depending on the type of playing that you do. And we'll get into that. Mine is kind of, on this guitar, I wouldn't call it high and I wouldn't call it low, somewhere in the middle. And you don't want the action too high on your guitar when you first start it, because it really is really hard to fret the notes, and it's very hard on your fingers. And you need it lower to medium, in my opinion, when you're starting off learning how to play the guitar.